Hey guys, and welcome to Beating the Press podcast, your weekly podcast where we talk all things football. If that's your type of thing, click the like, click the subscribe, click all that good stuff down below and join the BTP army. I think we've still got around about 125 subscribers, very loyal subscribers. Why not join and be one of those? Right, so today we are going to be discussing a club which doesn't really get much exposure on the Beating the Press podcast. I think it actually might be the first time that we've ever spoke about them, and it is actually Everton. Duncan Ferguson has been announced as the caretaker manager once more. He seemed to do quite a good job last time. I think he was only in charge for maybe a couple of games. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be discussing Duncan Ferguson, Rafa Benitez, and all things Everton. But first, let me introduce myself. My name's Kristian, if you haven't already seen the Beating the Press podcast. And this is Ty, my co-host. So Ty, what are you thinking about the Everton appointment of Duncan Ferguson as caretaker manager?
It's the most obvious and easy one for the board to make. Is already the club. There's no worry about trying to get him from the club, paying compensation, all that sort of jazz. So it's it was the most obvious one. I think it buys them a bit of time. So they've got the interim in now. I mean, you're not going to get Graham Potter's not going to leave Brighton forever, and Everton are a bit of a mess at the moment. So you've got a person who understands the club's loyal to the club, being a player, being as you mentioned, a bit of a caretaker manager before as well. But it's interesting they've just given him the title as interim. I think interim manager, but no sort of not till the end of the season. It's just for the next upcoming games.
Yeah,
which is
they
really
use the term upcoming games. Yeah, so it doesn't sound very long.
No, but it could be. It's one of the again. It buys them time, and they're not tying themselves down to 1-2 months. But obviously, the whoever they appoint next is absolutely huge because they're just. I mean, they've spent $500 million. Do you know what I mean? Since that, and it's you think of how much they've spent and where they are and the players they've bought. They've bought players. There's a lot of similarities between Everton and Man United. Obviously, they've been shopping for slightly different kind of top. Man United obviously going for top tier players. It's like just buying players. On the back of a name or one who's played well for a bit and just with no real structure, no thought process to it, no long-term thinking. And that's the bit where you see the big clubs successful because they've got long-term thinking. Whatever that strategy is, there's a long-term thinking behind it. And with Everton, we can talk about James Rodriguez. I mean, he came for what, 6 months, a year. He left just nothing. Do you know what I mean? You bought Jeremy in, he's just how much they paid, like 35-40 million for him. You bought so many players. Luca Dini came and he went. They had a sporting director. Rafa Benitez clicked his fingers and he got binned off as well. So there's loads of different things just going wrong, and there seems to be a lack of clear direction and leadership, I'd say, from Everton at the moment.
Yeah. Do you think? I'm looking through their players and the players that you've reeled off there. They're good players. They're like the quality players, but the balance seems to be completely off. And to lose a player like Digne, especially, like he's one of the best left backs in the league, and to lose him so easily, it just smacks of mismanagement, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Just with Duncan Ferguson coming in, obviously he's going to get everybody back inside. I think it's a good appointment. It's the obvious one, but it's obviously the right one at the moment, just because he is going to get everyone back inside. He is going to get that feel-good factor like he did last time. I remember watching them in his last. I think did he only manage 2 games? Was it?
Yeah, it wasn't many,
2 or 3 games.
There was a good atmosphere down the club.
But the place was bouncing, absolutely bouncing, and coming from a Liverpool fan, like it was absolutely brilliant just to watch, like the place just come alive. And it's not many people that could probably do that at their own club, like coming back to their own club. So he will get them going, but obviously you don't see this as a long-term appointment, do you?
I mean, it could be a Solskjaer. It could quite easily be a Solskjaer. He does well. He wins. He ends up managing for 10 games. It was interesting. I was listening to Talk Sport on the way in, and a couple of Everton fans rang in, and they were like, "Well, as long as we don't go down, that's all that really matters this season, and move on to next year." Yeah. It didn't really make a difference who it was, and it's Ferguson's obviously to get people on side. So I think that I think they're realistic, which is good. The other thing is they don't have a lot of money, or they don't have any money, because that's why Rafa had to get Damari Green for $1 million and all these other loan players. Do you know what I mean? So you're asking Rafa to come in and do a job, but you've got to think bigger picture as well. This isn't going to resolve just because you've got rid of Rafa Benitez, the next Liverpool manager. So Duncan Ferguson long term, it's not going to be the right answer for Everton, but football owners are stupid. They make decisions just because, and whichever way keeps people happy and gets the fans on their side, they generally do it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, what's the right thing you can do? I think they should be looking long term and thinking, someone down the sort of Graham Potter route. They won't get Graham Potter, but similar to that, an up and coming manager. Not a Rafa Benitez or a Jose Mourinho. With as much as I like Benitez, I do think the game's moved on from where he is, and these sort of managers, the ones that are great 15 years ago, they're not where they are now. I mean, they're a million miles off your Jurgen Klopps and your Pep Guardiolas, so that's where, I mean, Everton want to be challenging for top 6, top 4, but they're a million miles off that, aren't they? There's so many clubs that have overtaken them.
That's where the problem lies, isn't it? Like, you can bring a manager in for all the passion in the world and he will get the crowd going and you will have that instant new manager bounce, as you call it. And but as soon as it comes to adversity, as soon as it comes where a game isn't going your way, there's only so far that actually passion can get you. Teams that play on passion, a lot of the times they do end up getting turned over, just because the manager may not necessarily have the ability to get them out of that situation. And it's right, like you say, I think that they should probably go with him till the end of the season, because in reality, like you say, it's the most important decision that they're going to make. So why rush it now? I highly doubt they're going to go down. I think they're maybe about 6 points clear of the relegation zone with a couple of games in hand. But it's funny that you say you listen to TalkSport on the way, and I was listening to exactly the same. I was listening to TalkSport. And obviously they were suggesting different managers that were available, and that's what we'll speak on next. But there was an interesting suggestion from a lady about Phil Neville. What do you think about Phil Neville potentially being a candidate for the job?
I don't know. I think that the issue with people, Premier League fans, is if they go and manage in America, they're not very good. Do you know what I mean? That's the sort of default answer they get. So Patrick Vieira's been there and he's come over. He's doing a brilliant job at Palace. You know what I mean? So I think Phil Neville coming on is, he was obviously the England women's manager as well, has gone over there in MLS, and I think it's Inter Miami, and he's Beckham's team is at. I think he understands the club, him coming in. I mean, as long as it's long term and that's the way you want to go, then absolutely yes. But the issue is not going to be resolved by a manager. You've got to think, you look at the players they've got. Do you know what I mean? So if you go through their team, Seamus Coleman, as good as he is, as been, I don't think he's, they've obviously bought Nathan Patterson, they bought Mikalenko as well. So you realise full-back areas were important. The fact you've only got one centre-forward, decent centre-forward in Calvert-Lewin, then you've got Salomon Rondon, the pick from China. And Richarlison, Richarlison's playing from wide areas. And midfield, it's like if Doucouré don't play, you fall apart. So if Calvert-Lewin don't play, you fall apart. A team should never be built like that, where a couple of players missing, just the whole thing falls apart. And I can blame what you can. I know Rafa said, if I'd love to have another opportunity, longer, if we would have got better results once the injuries, injured players came back. But I just think they've got such an unbalanced squad, and a squad with so many average players. I mean, Andros Townsend should not be playing for Everton. Do you know what I mean? I mean, as nice as he might score the odd goal and stuff, worldy, he shouldn't be playing for Everton. He got released by Crystal Palace. Like, Everton are not that club where you're picking up Palace rejects. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got Jordan Pickford, who I just don't think should be anywhere. Is England the more Southgate? We've had podcasts before about Southgate having his favourites, but Pickford's not England's number one. Do you know what I mean? Let's not play about. I mean, Aaron Ramsdale currently the best English goalkeeper, and his best English goalkeeper by distance at the moment, I think. So Pickford, and then you go through, you've got Godfrey, the centre half, playing him as fullback. Even when the Digne issue is slightly different, just because there was a break. He was obviously falling down. There was a bit of a ruckus between him and Rafa, and he decided, out you go. So I just think the balance isn't right. I think Damari Gray is probably been their best player this year. I just.
So we had one with it's a weird one with Digne, because Mashiri must have known a week back, a couple of weeks back. Yeah. Why not tell him to hold on? I think it was more the player must have been pushing for the move at that time, because there's no way that you let a quality player like that go.
The issue with that is, though, Rafa got rid of the sporting director a couple of weeks before that as well, didn't he? So he's the only one. So if it was sporting director, would have gone like, no, we're not doing this. But it was just the owner and thinking, even if the player was unhappy, so let's just see it out for a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? And the fact that they allowed him, I mean, it was strange. You allowed him to go, then you allow him Rafa to buy 2 fullbacks as well, and Mikalenko and Pets, and then you sack him the next week. Do you know what I mean? And he just came to an end, I think. But it was interesting just talking about fans and how they had the Rafa out stuff. You know what I mean? And they were booing him, and the team goes a goal down, they're booing him, and then the teams come back and they're winning, and then they're suddenly cheering. Do you know what I mean? Football fans are so fickle, aren't they? It's like
yeah. It is a difficult one because he was out of hiding to nothing from the moment that he went into there, and you can never ever see it working out. The only thing I could see is maybe if they turned over Liverpool, that would probably be the moment where you might start to get people on side. But reality, it was never going to work out, and I feel kind of sorry for him. Obviously, being a Liverpool fan, I feel sorry for him because he went there at the worst time. His timing in management seems to be horrific. When he gets to a club,
I know
pretty much every club he's been to, the timing is horrific. He came to Liverpool and won as a Champions League almost instantly, and he went through that stage with Hicks and Gillette took over, and then unfortunately had to leave. And from that moment on, he's then become a manager, pretty much a caretaker manager wherever he's been. But he has had his successes with the likes of Newcastle. If you ask Newcastle now, would they take Rafa back? 100% with all that money. That would be the fans would be absolutely loving that. So it's just so difficult for him to go in there, especially I think Everton are probably the only club that I know of that are actually doing the FIFA Fair Play at the moment, because it's the first time I've actually heard of a club recently having to actually abide by the rules. Just unfortunate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But just the next bit, yeah. So you spoke about it there about potential next managers. I've sort of mentioned like Graham Potter. Who do you think they should be looking for, and would you get a sporting director back in, or were you thinking give it a Ferguson, let him ride the wheel?
I was always a sporting director, where I was always one of the people that said I wouldn't want a sporting director at a club because it interferes with what a manager's trying to do. But over these last few years, as the games went on, you see the development of styles of the likes of Klopp, Pep and all that. I think it's only right that you do have a director of football just to have that continuation, especially on the smaller clubs, where probably the managers might, the turnover might be a little bit more, just so you don't have that, like you say, an imbalance. You buy it, like one manager's buying a certain crop of players, and then all of a sudden they become redundant, and then the new manager comes in and buys his own, and before you know it, you've got a mismatch of ideas. So I always think that you should have a technical director, a director of football. But for me, I would bring in the director of football. I like you. I like Graham Potter. I think he would be ideal, but I heard an interview where he was saying that, he needs structure, he needs everything to be in place, and that's what he's got at Brighton at the moment. The names I mentioned, Frank Lampard, no, I would what has he really done in order to get a mention? Really, I feel like Frank Lampard is going to be in the next generation of one of those managers that just goes around on the merry-go-round, like your Sam Allardyce's and Kerbishley's and Pardew's. I think he's just going to be there because he's English, and he's a man of football. But realistically, Wayne Rooney.
That's the one I was going to throw you at.
So Wayne Rooney's done really well at Derby this year. Obviously they start the season with barely any players whatsoever, and you could not see them staying up. In particular, with the amount of points, did they have 20 points deduction?
They had points deducted at the start of the season, then they had more deducted once the season was going. And the fact that he's got them, I think the job that he's done is, it's unbelievable. If he keeps Derby up, he's manager of the season, and it's not even close. I don't care if Guardiola wins the Premier League and the Champions League. Or if Liverpool
do you think it's a bigger achievement than winning the Premier League?
I
suppose that's
with
Guardiola's resources.
If Liverpool, Man City, or Chelsea win the league, I beg you, then any one of them, apart from them three, anyone else, then you might have a conversation. But no, they're dead and buried. They're like minus 21 points or something like that, and then you've got no players. It's like you can't buy. You've got Phil Jagielka, who's 39. He's had to let him go because they couldn't afford him. he's gone to Stoke, you know what I mean? And then he's having to bring academy kids in. He's got players like Curtis Davis who were on trial at the start of the season. Now they're starting, and I mean, what he's done with that club, I mean, that is like top-notch managing, coaching. I mean, I've not watched that. I see the results every now and again, and I see what he's doing. So the work that he's done, and talk about working in a shoestring budget. You know what I mean? He don't even have a budget, and then he's got the whole stuff about the ownership on the back of it. You know what I mean? Who's going to take over Derby? You've got administrators and what he's doing has been top notch. And I'll tell you what, he'd go to Everton. This is actually all right as compared to Derby,
Exactly, that's what I mean. He will have that. He will have that budget. He'll have the fans on side straight away. Even if he has Duncan Ferguson in the background, you mentioned them too, motivating the players.
Yeah, I mean,
especially on a Derby day.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I actually do think though, with Wayne Rooney though, you've got as brilliant as he is. I think the question you've got to. I'd love to know. I don't know Wayne Rooney. We don't know how he thinks of anything. Love to know if someone asked him the question now, right? Okay, Everton, would you take it, or would he want to stay and keep Derby up? If he keeps Derby up, it would go down as one of the great achievements of recent memory. Do you know what I mean? Because I can't think. I mean, it's not as big as Leicester winning the Premier League, but I'll tell you what, it's not going to be far off because they absolutely.
I agree with you. If I was him, I would go for that. I would go for that achievement. I would have a word with Mashiri, and I would say, keep Duncan there till the end of the season. I'll come in the summer. In the meantime, you can get his ideas down on what he wants. I think he is like we were saying there, he's the obvious choice for Duncan Ferguson was the obvious choice. I think Wayne Rooney is the obvious choice. But I just want to ask you, with Steven Gerrard, the way he's going about things with Villa, obviously, with the way that he's playing, he's a very respected player, even to these days. He's only not long ago left the game, so, a lot of the younger players know him, respect him, so much so, obviously, Coutinho, who you never think would join Aston Villa, and he would never have joined them without Steven Gerrard being there. How do you think the comparisons lie between Gerrard and Rooney? Do you think he holds that? He holds that level of respect, maybe able to get the players in like Steven Gerrard could?
Absolutely. And one of my mates, really good coach, he works at Derby Academy, and he said, Rooney's still absolutely brilliant. You know what I mean? He's a different class, but he's obviously not a player anymore. He is a manager. When he, towards the end of his career, he started playing sort of holding midfield for Derby, not dropping in and playing that position, but he was just slowly, he just wasn't good enough, do you know what I mean? But it's Wayne Rooney, it's hard for a manager to drop him. So now he's obviously just gone full-time manager. I think it's the right thing to do because it's quite easy. And I'll tell you what, I bet it would have gone across his thought with all those losing his place. I'm just going to register as a Derby player and stick a kit on, you know what I mean? Because he can't, you know what I mean? There's an argument to be made, aren't there? I'd rather have Rooney playing than a 17-year-old academy kid, So that's obviously gone through his head, but he's obviously made a clear decision to say I'm more beneficial to the team as a manager. But yeah, in terms of pull, Wayne Rooney, these players that are coming up now, they'd have grown up to see Rooney and Gerrard, you know what I mean? So they've got a pull on themselves. And then obviously attached to that as well, you've got Wayne Rooney will have played with some of these players that are trying to get in. So Coutinho, obviously Gerrard getting, I mean, I've heard today, I don't even know how much truth it's got to, but Luis Suarez coming to Villa. Do you know what I mean? Because of Gerrard. So you've got that pull with these players, playing with these players, 5-6 years ago, and bringing them in and say, can you just do a job for me for the season or whatever, especially Rooney, obviously it'll just be 6 months or whatever. But yeah, so it's just the whole thing's just it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, he is highly respected. Is England's all-time leading goal scorer. Obviously, Manchester United, great. No one can deny that. So I like you. I think he will have a massive pull. You forget about all the players that he will have played with over the years that are still knocking about, that could still do a job for Everton. So yeah, I think he would be the most logical choice. Is there anyone else that you want to throw in the hat?
I'm just trying to think now.
Martinez was another that was mentioned.
Yeah, I'm not looking at my phone for answer. I'm just putting my phone on mute because you just don't want to ping it off. You don't want the wife to press the ring doorbell and it goes doo-doo-doo. No, I think managers like Ten Hag and stuff, I don't think they've dropped down that far. I mean, Roberto Martinez was mentioned as well. I can see that happening, but I think with Belgium don't want to let him go, and especially with the World Cup coming up at the end of the year, I think he probably want to get a World Cup in before he moves to. You're only 9 months away from the World Cup. I think you want to.
Do you think it's still possible for a manager to do both?
Not for one of the elite nations in the world. I think if it's someone like, I don't know, Montenegro, for example, has pulled out the hat. Apology, all Montenegro fans. But yeah, anyone like that, do you know what I mean? Someone that's not really going to win it, you can. But yeah, no, I think that could be a goer, because I think he's obviously played. He understands the club, the way he's got a set style of play. He knows he's going to play. And he worked with the director of football. But I just think it's a big job for Everton at the moment, and it is good for them. It's good to see that they're using the financial fair play and actually trying to stick to it, not like Man City spending more money and throwing more money at it and trying to get all the way to the top.
I'm trying to I'm going to look into this after the podcast and how they actually managed to get in a situation where they're being actively monitored by FIFA Fair Play.
That's probably a podcast on its own. They're talking about financial fair play and how it actually, because that for me just looks an absolute mess. And if for example Man City seem to be the biggest culprits, they've spent X amount. We just hired a lawyer who's better than the UEFA's lawyer, and they'll just win. Do you know what I mean? It just seems to be very unfair and don't seem to have any. It's not very transparent, so no one really knows what's going on. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's just a big issue.
Yeah, you should be able to see some kind of balance sheets where each club is where they are in relation to each other. But yeah, so that's good. But yeah, so it is. I think it is a change that needed to happen with Rafa Benitez. Where do you see him going next? Because now, off the back of that, he's had opportunities here, there, and everywhere. You just can't see where he's going to go next.
I don't. Yeah, I think I genuinely don't know where he's going to go. I think Mourinho's in the same boat. I can't see Mourinho lasting too much normally, unless you see some of the stuff that he says. He's blaming the players again. Everywhere he goes, he blames the players. They're not strong enough. So
that's when you know that it's coming to an end.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. I mean, I think he could potentially go down the punditry route, but I don't know. I just think he's gonna. Yeah, you are right in that it's very unlucky in the managers. His timing's really bad. You mentioned it earlier. He went to Liverpool, went to Newcastle when they were down in dumps. He went to Chelsea when they were down in dumps, doing a caretaker job for them. Do you know what I mean? And then he's gone to China. He's went to Newcastle when they had Mike Ashley in charge. You know what I mean? And the fans still loved him. And he's gone to Everton when they're a complete mess. So everywhere he goes, I mean, I don't know. I think he almost needs a club that's in a really good position. But I don't think a club in a really good position would go for him, because I think everyone's sort of thinking. I think him and Mourinho are very similar now, that people are classing them as has-beens. They were good 15 years ago.
I was just about to ask you that, and I'm gonna ask you that while you think of your question of the day. We always you more so than myself. You often say that the game has moved on to the point where Mourinho's management style is less effective than what it used to be. Now, we've got an affinity to Rafa. He came to Liverpool at the same time as what Jose Mourinho came to Chelsea. They've both been kind of through similar cycles. Do you still think Rafa has enough to offer, or do you think that he is falling a victim to that same thing that Mourinho kind of is, where the game's moved on?
Before I start, both of these are the elite coaches. They're unbelievable. They understand the game. That's not the issue. It's, as a manager, you have an identity, a style of football. Both of those two managers are very pragmatic, very defensive-minded football coaches. Yep. Now, the game's moved on. When I say the game's moved on, it's all about front foot attacking football. Do you know what I mean? So you're looking at the best teams in the world. They're all attacking, high press, playing out from the back, playing through the thirds, pressing, counter pressing. It's high intensity. Both those teams, both those managers, I don't think have moved along with times as much as they should have done. And I think that's where they fall out. It's just whenever you go to a big game, them two, their first thing will be, how can we keep it tight at the back and look to nick it? You look at Liverpool, Man City. I'll use them because they're the best two teams in the world. They always think front foot, we're going to dominate, we're going to look to score, we're going to win. They're trying to take home and away advantage out of it. They don't care who they play, they'll always play front foot looking to win the game. Do you know what I mean? And I think with them two, a lot of the games when they see it's like, we'll just slightly play on the back foot and look to play on the break. We'll be practicing, we'll look to spoil the game. We'll time wasting the first 10 minutes, that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest difference for me moving forward. So yeah, I mean, the managers, the different type of managers. You look at Graham Potter compared to Benitez. I mean, Benitez is a better manager, but it's like you ask someone, well, Graham Potter, because he's Brighton, they're playing better football. But you've got to understand what these managers have achieved over the years. The Champions League winners, you know what I mean? So the game's not really, it's just the style of football has moved on, and people want to see exciting football because they're not as exciting. Them two are very sort of results-orientated managers, but I just think the game's moved on now where, it's all, like I said, high intensity front foot attacking football, and everyone wants to see beautiful, sexy football, don't they?
Great analysis. So, with that being said, I think we've covered just about everything in relation to Everton in this podcast. Do you have your usual question of the day?
I do. So it's probably for Everton fans. Hi, Everton fans, if this is the first time you're tuning in. But simple question of the day: who do you want to be your long-term next manager? Stick your answers down at the bottom of the comment section. We do respond to every answer, every question even, or comment. And I always say, if you get to this stage of the podcast, you obviously like, I think we talk a little bit of sense. And for that, do us a favour, click that subscribe button, like and share. Talk to us about your families. You never know. Could be a conversation starter over Sunday dinner or something. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, seriously, thanks for listening. And as always, appreciate you guys taking the time out of your lives to listen to our wonderful voices. It's better than mine. See you guys. Bye.
See you later, guys.